Hi everyone, my name is Salman Ahmed and I am a PhD student at Virginia Tech. This talk is about methodologies for quantifying randomization and re-randomization security and timing under JIT-ROP. So this is a collaborative work with Penn State University, 0-Point Dynamics and University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So in security literature, we have seen different kind of code reuse attack techniques such as the return-oriented programming or ROP, jump-oriented programming or JOP, and so on. However, JIT-ROP or just-in-time return-oriented programming is the most powerful attack techniques that we have seen so far. The key enabler for this attack is that it can perform repeated code pointer leaks from a single leak. And it is also known for bypassing the fine-grained address space layout randomization or ASLR. Now the key question is, does JIT-ROP completely break fine-grained ASLR? For example, one might ask how much broken the fine-grained ASLR is when the attack model is JIT-ROP. Also, one can ask, are there still good elements of fine-grained ASLR? So these are the motivations for this study. For example, some in-depth questions regarding the impact of fine-grained ASLR on code reuse attack is not clear. Also, the current literature does not have a concrete methodology to compute the re-randomization intervals. So the re-randomization interval is a security parameter that balances the security and performance of re-randomization defenses. So in this study, we answer three key questions. The first one is, what impact do fine-grained ASLR have on the Turing Complete expressiveness of JIT-ROP payloads? So the second question is, how do attack vectors, for example, the starting code pointer leaks, impact the JIT-ROP attacks? And the third question is, how would one compute the re-randomization interval effectively to defeat JIT-ROP attacks? So in our measurement approach, we emulate parts of the JIT-ROP attacks. So basically, we have implemented the recursive code harvesting module and run it against some applications or libraries. So the steps are, we take an application or libraries, we build it to make the fine-grained versions using fine-grained ASLR tools. We also make the coarse-grained version using normal compilers. Then we run each application or library against some workload and intentionally leak code pointers. So we input this leaked code pointer to the recursive code harvesting module and run the recursive code harvesting process in those applications and libraries. We also run the libc code scanning tool to scan for libc code pointers in writable segments of an application binary. We store all the data for our analysis. So in this work, we evaluated 5 fine-grained ASLR tools using 20 applications and 25 dynamic libraries. So all the source code and data for this work is publicly available, and the link will be given at the end of this talk. So one might ask, why not launching JIT-ROP exploits instead of emulating some parts of it? So we did not launch the JIT-ROP exploit due to its low scalability, low reproducibility, and inaccurate measurement issues. So in order to make large-scale measurement, we need some specific, relevant, and measurable metrics, and we also need some systemic measurement methodologies. So what are our metrics and methodologies? So in this work, we basically identify 4 security metrics and design 4 measurement methodologies. So our security metrics are attack time, gadget availability, quality of gadget, and number of libc pointers. So gadgets are like short instruction sequences that are widely used in code reuse attack. So we use these 4 security metrics to compute the upper bound of re-randomization interval, to measure the attack surface reduction, to quantify the impact of ASLR security, and to determine the critical module or segments of an application binary. So out of the 4 security metrics, 2 of them are gadget availability and gadget quality metrics. So in order to precisely represent gadget availability and gadget quality metric, we first represent each gadget using 2 footprints, minimum footprints and extended footprint. So in minimum footprint gadgets, the gadget does not have any additional instruction other than the key instruction. For example, in this gadget, the purpose of this gadget is to move a value from one register to another. So the key instruction here is this move RX RVX instruction. There is no additional instruction. But for extended footprint gadget, there might be some additional instruction. For example, in this case, this add RX RSI instruction. So this instruction may or may not impact the key instruction. So based on this impact, we compute the gadget corruption rate. So the idea is to determine the core instruction of a gadget based on its purpose, and then determine how the register of the core instruction get modified by the preceding or the following instructions. So if the gadget corruption rate is higher, that means the gadget quality is lower. We also use 4 gadget set for our measurement purposes, and the 4 gadget set are Turing Complete gadget set, Priority gadget set, Move TC gadget set, and the Payload gadget set. So the Turing Complete gadget set is basically a set of gadgets that can perform 7 Turing Complete operations. So the details of these gadgets can be found in our paper. So in our threat model, we assume all the standard defenses. We also assume the fine-grained ASLR is enforced, a leak pointer is available, and the attack model is JIT-ROP. We assume no CFI, no execute-only memory, and no code pointer integrity protection. We believe that decoupling them from the ASLR would help us better understand ASLR's security impact. So when we enforce the fine-grained ASLR, we enforce it in a different granularity. For example, the function level enforcement, the basic block level enforcement, instruction level enforcement. We also enforced in the register level. We didn't show it in here. So what are our findings? So our first finding is related to computing re-randomization upper bound. So we found that the upper bound ranges from 1.5 to 3.5 seconds in our tested applications. So what we did is we ran the recursive code harvesting module and measured the time to leak all the gadgets from a gadget set. For example, in this case, if we consider this Chromium browser, we can see the recursive code harvesting process takes roughly 0.5 seconds to leak 8 gadget types from the 11 gadget types of Turing Complete gadget set, and it takes roughly 3.5 seconds to leak all the 11 gadget types from the Turing Complete gadget set. And we run it for all applications and all gadget sets, and this is the minimum time to leak all the gadget types from a gadget set, and this number ranges from 1.5 to 3.5 seconds. So we should note that this upper bound may vary with machine configurations. So that is why we focus more on the methodology instead of the numbers. One can run this methodology in their machines to compute the best numbers for their machine. So our second finding is about the quantification of attack surface reduction. So basically we prepare the coarse grain version and the fine grain versions, and also measure the available gadgets in both versions and compute the reduction in the fine grain versions. So what we've seen that the single round instruction level randomization can limit up to 90% of the gadgets and restrict the Turing Complete operations. All the other schemes, the reductions are less than 50% and cannot restrict the Turing Complete operations. So our third finding is about the impact of the location of pointer leakage. To observe the impact, we run the recursive code harvesting process starting from different code pointer locations and measure the available gadget and also measure the time to obtain those gadgets. We found that location of the code pointer does not have any impact on the available gadgets. That means if we run the recursive code harvesting process from any code page, that will eventually land all the other code pages of that application, which indicates high connectivity between the code pages in an application, which is also the enabler for JIT-ROP attacks. On the other hand, we have seen an impact on how fast attacker can obtain gadgets. This is because some of the code pages are dense and contains diverse set of gadgets. Whenever the code harvesting process hits those code pages sooner, the process takes less time to obtain all the gadgets. Our fourth finding is about determining that critical modules or segments of an application binary based on the number of libc pointers. We have seen that a stack has higher risk than heap or data segment. This is because the stacks on average contain 16 more libc pointers than the other two segments. So the key takeaways of this work are that we have proposed security metrics and methodologies for large-scale evaluation. We also shown a methodology to compute effective re-randomization upper bound. We have also shown that high connectivity in code, which was the enabler for JIT-ROP attacks. We have also shown that instruction level randomization can limit Turing Complete operations. And finally, all the leak pointers are created equal for gadget availability, but not for the time to leak gadgets. We thank our anonymous reviewers and Shepherd for their valuable comments and suggestions. This work was supported in part by NSF grant. All the code and data are available on GitHub in this link. Thank you for listening this talk.